Today we're here to celebrate the birthday of a 100th birthday of a lifelong Cannon Falls resident, George Rapp. So we got his wife Clarice is here, and Brian Lindell is an old friend of George's, and I'm Ken Rapp, nephew of George. So George was born in May 11th, right? 1918.
Yep.
And I did a little digging. I went down to the Beacon office, and they dug out a copy of the May 10th, 1918 Beacon. So I got a chance to read that, and just to set the stage a little bit, I thought I'd give a few of the headlines from 1918, including some from the Beacon. But, our president was Woodrow Wilson back then, and we were at the end of World War I, although it ended in May of that year. Probably the biggest thing that happened in the United States in 1918 was the outbreak of the influenza flu. It was the most devastating epidemic in world history. 28% of Americans were affected by the flu. 675,000 Americans died. That was 10 times as many people as died in World War I. 43,000 servicemen died in World War I of the flu. More than half of the American deaths were from the flu, not from bullets. The average lifespan in the United States dropped by 10 years in the period of 1918 and 1919. Even Woodrow Wilson was suffering from the flu when he negotiated the Treaty of Versailles, which happened in 1919. So, the average income in 1918 was $1,520 a year. Adjusted for inflation, today that's about $26,700. So about half of what the average income today is in the United States. Average cost of a new car is $400. Today that adjusted would be $8,000, adjusted for inflation. Average house costs $5,000, and that would be about $88,000 in today's numbers. Only 8% of the homes in America had a telephone. 6% of people in the United States graduated from high school. And then a few headlines from the Beacon that year. Minnesota in May recruited, their goal to recruit 1,250 servicemen. 20 Goodhue County boys, this was one of the headlines, 20 Goodhue County boys left for the service on Saturday. Hundreds have gathered to bid them goodbye. U.S. debt was $8 billion. Half of that was loaned to the Allies for the war purposes, which would be paid back. So adjusted for inflation, that's about $140 billion was our national debt. Far cry from the $20+ billion or trillion dollars that it is today. In the newspaper, several of the ads were to try to get you to purchase the war savings stamps. And there were also several ads trying to encourage you to save waste copper, waste brass, aluminum, lead, rubber, and those such things for recycling. And then, of course, much of the paper was for local news. Big news flash. Attorney Eskison made a trip to St. Paul on Saturday. And Mr. and Mrs. Carl Johnson spent Sunday evening at the S. Johnson home. So this is big news. So I guess in Cannon Falls, even though the war was going on, we didn't have our hair on fire because of the war. So,
Can you tell us something about your early years growing up out in the farm there? There were 12 children in the family?
Yeah.
Running water?
No. Oh, no.
Telephone?
Cranker. You did.
Electricity?
No.
But 12 kids in that little house.
Yeah.
What were your jobs around the farm?
Well, when I got big enough, it would milk cows. We had a lot of milk cows.
Okay. Chickens,
Yeah, I had chickens.
pigs,
Yeah.
little of everything. Did you farm with horses or tractor?
Well, them days the horses.
Horses. So,
What? How many years did you go to school?
8.
8 years. All right.
I learned a lot.
You bet.
did you have a favorite subject in school or?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Recess.
Recess, yeah.
And you walked up through the pasture to school every day.
Oh, yeah.
How about the winter?
I walked up the same pasture.
Through all that deep snow?
Oh, yeah.
I heard that, and maybe it was later years, that Brian's mother was a teacher in the little school. But
was,
she didn't teach you, I guess. Huh?
She was never my teacher, though.
Okay.
No.
So what were things like at home? All these kids. I know that there was an age difference of about 10 years older and 10 years younger than you. You were near the middle of the pack. So who'd you hang around with the most in those early days?
You mean of the family?
Yeah.
Well, mostly my own, close to my own age.
Okay. That'd be Ray and Arnold and
Yeah.
Clara. Yeah.
Yeah, and Marvin and Doris and
That's okay.
Lucille.
How about in the neighborhood? Do you have any buddies in the neighborhood?
Oh, yeah. I had a couple of pretty real good buddies.
Who were they?
Marvin Berg was one. He was a real good friend of mine. And Stephen Fredrickson is a good friend of mine.
So after 8 years of school, then you didn't start working out right away. Did you work at home for a while?
Oh, yeah, at home now.
And then started working out as a hired man?
I worked for Rudolph Johnson and Marvin Prink and Ray Samuelson. And
He had to treat you pretty good because he was a brother-in-law, right?
yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Just for everybody's information, there were actually 13 kids, one stillborn. Your oldest sister was stillborn. That was Olga.
Mm-hmm.
And then along came Henry and Conrad, who married Mildred. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, George. Then Clara, who married Ray Samuelson.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was Ray Rapp, who married Dolores. Rosella married Virgil Holm. Arnold married Norma. And then you came along,
I came along.
married Clarice. Doris married Eldridge Banks. Marvin, my dad, married Lenora. Lucille married Milton Kallstrom. Leroy married Marion, and Virgil married Doris. So that was quite a baker's dozen there.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Grandma and Grandpa? Grandma came over here from Sweden by herself.
Yeah.
And how old was she about?
Well, I'm not sure, but I think she was in her teens.
Yeah.
You know.
Grandpa, Axel, what kind of a guy was he?
Well, he was the kind of a guy you didn't want to cross.
Oh, yeah?
But he was a good guy. He was a good father. he was strict.
Who was the disciplinarian in the family when you were a little kid?
Axel.
Oh, yeah?
Did you ever need any disciplining or?
Oh, not me, but the rest of them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. What the heck did people do in the early 1900s for fun when you're a teenager?
Well, there's a lot of things I don't tell anybody.
You did a little trapping, didn't you?
Yeah, I used to trap. Skunk.
Skunk?
Yeah. Yeah, I trapped a few skunks. Smelled pretty bad, but
So what do you do with the skunk once you catch it?
skin them and sell the hide.
No kidding. Who'd you hang around with in those days? Who were your friends? And
Well, I had a neighbor there, Marvin Berg. He was a good friend of mine. Stephen Fredrickson. They were close neighbors. We were good friends. We did a lot of bad things together.
anything you can tell?
No.
No. Okay.
Now, for the war, were you drafted or did you enlist?
Oh, I was drafted.
You were drafted. And where did you end up?
I ended up in Seattle, Washington first. Had my basic training there, and then I went to Juneau, Alaska. But then from there I went to Excursion Inlet, Alaska.
What were your jobs when you were in?
Well, I was a fireman for a while. Worked for the fire department.
Were you in the
Yeah, I
kitchen?
got to be a military policeman.
Were you in the kitchen for a while, I heard?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I worked in the kitchen a while, yeah. And night shift.
How long were you in the service?
3 years and 9 months.
Now you had a little bit of a, how should we say, you had a problem with your eye that didn't keep you out of the service apparently.
No, but I kept me from going overseas. I
Okay.
couldn't go overseas.
Okay. How did that happen? Can you tell us how you lost your eye?
Well, kid was behind me and he threw a blackberry eraser and just as I turned around I got it. I got it in the eye.
And so today, you still have the same glass eye that you had back then?
Well, I didn't get the glass eye for many years afterwards.
Okay.
I got that up at the vet's hospital.
I see.
Yeah.
When did you meet Clarice? When was the first time you met Clarice?
Can you answer that?
You remember?
It was after you got out of the service?
Yeah.
So
Oh, see, when did I meet you?
Well,
When was it?
we got married in 1950, so
50?
Oh, yeah.
before that was about 4 years before that.
Was it love at first sight, would you say? Or?
Love at first sight.
Good, good.
Good answer. So, what was your first car?
Oh, Model A.
Good cars?
Oh, well, that was a good car.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
After you were done working as a hired man, then was silo construction the next job you went to?
Oh, yeah, we built a lot of silos.
And then after that, where?
Malt House?
Huh?
Well,
At the Malt House.
Oh, that must be, yeah, that's when I went to the malt house. Yeah.
Quite a few years there.
I got retired there when Dick got tired of me.
and then you had the longest job you ever had after you retired, right? At the Beacon?
Yeah, I guess it probably was. I was there a long time.
Yeah, I think you said it was 32 years you're working for the Beacon. So.
Really?
Yeah, it was 30 years after that. He retired from the Malt House.
Yeah. After 28 years at the Malt House? Wow. So what'd you do at the Beacon office?
But worked on the shopper.
You had a bunch of guys you worked with for a long time there. Who was
Yeah.
that?
I worked with Jim Magnuson, Melvin Lundell, Jerry Erickson.
Also heard you work for the fair, the fairgrounds. Right?
Yeah, I worked at the fairgrounds. 4 or 5 years, I think.
4 or 5.
You've been around Cannon Falls a long time. How's the town changed since you first remember it?
Well, it's changed a lot. It's a much deader town now than it was years ago.
What were some of the things that made it lively?
Overall party. Well, yeah, and the little towns there had a lot of entertainment in those days, you know.
So did your folks do all their shopping in Cannon Falls for what they needed?
Well, we did most of our shopping in Bell Creek.
Oh,
That was a big store there, the grocery shopping and stuff.
And back in those days in Cannon Falls, I understand you had one police officer for the town.
Yeah.
And how would you rate the crime rate back then versus now?
There was no crime that I can think of back then.
Well, things have changed. How about in the United States as a whole? Do you think of anything big difference? You see a lot of differences in the last 80, 90, 100 years?
Everything changes, you know.
I
It
think.
didn't change for the better.
It
The
did.
old days were the best.
Are they? You prefer to go back in those old days? How's your health these days?
I don't think there's anything wrong with me.
All right. Got another 100 in you?
Another 100?
Yeah?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, okay. You had some knee replacement or hip replacement?
Oh, I had both my knees replaced, yeah.
How long ago was that?
Well, how long ago, Mama?
About in the 90s. I don't remember.
Got along pretty well without it.
Yeah,
New replacements there.
yeah,
I understand you don't take many medications either.
no.
So what?
A drink of whiskey a day,
Oh, that ought to do it.
that's medication.
That's medication.
was that prescribed or is that a home remedy, would you say? The doctor didn't prescribe that for you.
No.
But as long as it works, sounds good to me. How about your own family now? You've got 6 kids. Maybe Claire's can help here now. You got how many grandkids and
15 grandkids and about 25 great-grandkids now, and 3 great-great-grandchildren.
gosh. So
Could you name them, George, or not? Is there anything left on your, what they call your bucket list? Are there any things that you still want to do? Any big trips, or
No.
pretty contented right where you are?
Pretty much so, yeah.
Good, good.
I hope, yeah,
Do you keep up on politics?
yeah.
Are you pretty open-minded, you would say, or?
No.
yeah, look at that.
Don't ask me if I like Trump.
No, I won't. I know better.
How about are you a sports fan?
Yeah, I like baseball and watch football.
What do you got planned for the next 100 years?
Well, it takes a little planning, but working at it.
How would you like to be remembered by your family and friends?
I like to be remembered as not an easy-going guy. Hard-nosed guy.
Hard nosed. Well, I haven't seen that part of you too much.
No.
You've been a great uncle for all of us for a long time. Any favorite kids? You want to go there? Huh?
I won't go there. No.
I want to go back to that You mentioned about trapping skunk.
I can smell them now.
Yeah. But didn't you and one of your buddies, didn't you save some of the scent one time?
Ooh.
What happened with that then?
Oh, God. Yeah, he bottled it, see, and went up and down the street, Cannon Falls, put little on the doorknobs.
So then,
And then when the people went in there, they turned around. Whoa, what's that terrible smell? And we sat and watched them, you know.
who was in on that besides you?
Oh, it was Marvin Berg's idea.
I blame it on Marvin.
You and Marvin were both in service, but he went overseas,
Yeah.
and then things didn't go so well.
No, we wrote letters to each other, and when I wrote him a letter, got it back, and it said deceased. So he got killed over in Belgium.
Okay.
Two of your brothers, most of us, nephews, nieces, grandchildren, didn't know either Henry or Raymond. Can you tell us a little bit about those two guys? Was Henry in the service?
Henry?
Yeah?
No,
No?
no, he died before. Well,
Like, according to the
he
records.
died before World War II.
Okay. Yeah. What did he die of?
Blood clot.
Okay. Now that was the blood clotting factor has been a big deal in the Rapp family.
Yeah, it was.
All-
Yeah.
Do you have that clotting factor?
No,
There's no
no.
cause. I know at least half of your brothers and sisters have had
Yeah.
problems with that. But is that what happened to Raymond also?
Yeah,
Your brother, Ray?
Yeah, he had the blood clot.
Blood clot, huh?
Yeah.
Was he the closest in age to you? Of the-
Let's see, let's see, I think he was 4 years older.
Oh, okay.
Henry, he had a restaurant, I understand, in
Yeah, he did for a
town
while.
too. And Raymond, did he go to the service?
He was in the Navy for one hit, 4 years, I suppose.
4 years?
Yeah.
Well, you're the last, the last of the clan, and we sure hope we can keep you around another 100 years or so.
Yeah.
What did you do to Grandpa's tractor?
Yeah, I heard you got in a little trouble when you were a child with the tractor. Wasn't there a pitchfork involved?
Oh, dude, yeah.
What happened?
Oh, I had a picture and I ran it into the radiator.
Oh, were you mad about something? Or?
No, I just thought it was fun.
Grandpa didn't think it was fun, I bet.
No.
No.
When they put water in it, it shot out.
So,
Ask him about Hiram Ellis.
you wanted to know about Hiram Ellis. That's our
Chasing
police
you.
guy.
Chasing you. And he went into a garage to hide. Remember?
Oh, yeah. He was chasing me, and I turned right up here someplace, and I saw a garage door open. I drove in there, and he drove by.
That was the end of that.
That was the end of that. I outwitted him.
I just want to say that this is a great day to be interviewing my 100-year-old uncle. And he's been a great uncle. I mean, a good uncle and a great uncle. I've enjoyed every day that I've known George. And got a lot of good stories about George. First, I'll start with the story that Grandma Rapp always told about him. And it's pretty cute. It's not, Grandma was a great person and she handled her kids with love, but once in a while, those days, they got a spanking if they did something really bad. So the story goes that Grandma was cooking, and her and Mamie Benson, was it? You remember Mamie Benson? And George did something naughty, and I don't know what it was, but it was pretty bad. So he took off. And I'll stop and say he was about 4 years old now when this happened. So he took off and took off down to the barn, and they went after him, and they got him in this corner, and then he bargained with him. George is a great bargain person. He said, "Okay, if you're going to spank me and take my pants down, it's going to be a spanking, you got to promise to put my suspenders back up again." So that's the kind of negotiator George is. But anyway, I've known George. He, like he said before, he like most men before the war, World War II, they born around the rural area. They were helped on the farms, hired hands, and he worked for my dad, and he was a heck of a good hired man. And he was, like my dad always said, that George could have been a good farmer if he wanted to be, and I agree with that totally. And I saw George go off to the war, and in fact I had 5 uncles that were in the service, but came back, and he fitted in perfect in the society, and he's done everything that. He's lived in the same town, but he's had different occupations. And I don't know, there's a lot of people know George, and that's a good thing. So I believe that he could have a TV station, right? He could be a TV celebrity after this interview. Anyway, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, people ask me about the boys that I play cards with, Virgil and Melvin and George, and I always say George he's 99, but he's going on 21.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I sincerely mean it.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I feel so blessed to have been raised in the Rapp family. And I was 3rd oldest of the grandkids, and we were the only ones that lived in town. And I tell you, it was a circus every day. And my mother had to have loved her brothers dearly, because they pulled a lot of pranks on Mom and Dad. And my mother's brothers were the brothers my dad didn't have, and he fit right in with them. And that happened that they were all home, not all. It was Leroy and George were in the military, and they came home on leave. And Virgil was staying with us that time. Different ones of the boys would come and live with Mom and Dad and pay room and board, because we were the only ones that lived in town. Well, it happened that the 3 of them, 2 were home on military leave, and of course they'd go downtown at night and come home, and we're pretty jolly, and there was 3 of them to 1 bed, and none of them wanted to sleep in the middle. Well, Mom and Dad's bedroom was down below their bedroom where they were sleeping, and there was a crash upstairs. And then he heard, "We're not satisfied with our sleeping quarters." And Dad just figured, well, they were complaining. And about the 3rd time they said that, he went upstairs. And what had happened was none of the 3 wanted to sleep in the middle, so they lined up into one end of the room and jumped in the bed, and the slats moved, and the mattress and everything went down on the floor. Remember this?
Yes.
Well, Dad fixed it, and he just got back into bed downstairs, and there was even a bigger crash. And then it was, "We're not satisfied with our sleeping quarters." After about 3 times of that, Dad went up there, and he took one look into the bedroom, and the board that connects the headboard and the footboard was split right down the middle, the whole length of the bed. And my dad just turned around, went downstairs, and went back to bed. But like I said, it was just a blast all the time at our house, and that was one. And then sometimes he wasn't in the military yet. Well, it must have been after he was in the military. He'd stayed with us. And of course, we 3 girls were in school by that time. And we'd go to a ball game, and he'd come and say, when we got home, he'd say, well, who won? And we'd say, who won? And he's, well, what position did you play? He'd say. Or we'd ask him a question about something he had done or where he had been, and then he'd say, are you writing a book? We'll leave that chapter out, he'd say. So I tell you, I could go on, but it was really a lot of fun, and I think my mother would have done anything for her brothers, and did. And I could tell a lot more stories with the growing up with the other siblings of my mother.
My father is Conrad, George's brother. And my sisters and I used to go down on Saturdays to help Dad clean his house after Mother had passed away. And we finally convinced him to hire someone to do it so we could go down there and just spend the day visiting. And we'd usually get there about 9 o'clock on the Saturday morning, and Dad had the coffee going and maybe cookies or rolls he had bought for us. And we came down there that one Saturday, and it was about 9 o'clock, and Dad wasn't anywhere in sight. We started looking around, and pretty quick he comes walking out of the bedroom, his bare feet pulling up his suspenders on his bibbed overalls, no shirt on. He was just getting out of bed. And we were a little concerned. We said, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Oh, he was just fine. He hadn't gotten home from playing poker with the boys until 7 o'clock that morning. And they really did enjoy their poker games. He enjoyed them. And I know not too long ago I mentioned to George and Clarice that the boys must be up there having a nice cribbage game. And George said, oh no, that'd be poker. And Clarice said, oh yes, with a shot of whiskey on the side. That's my story.
It was. Never drank whiskey.
Oh.
Yeah, well, those were the good old days.
Those were. But I will say that every time I have seen one of the brothers, they all look alike.
Okay.
You're all Conrad all over again. Every one of them.
Oh, yeah.
Every one of them is Conrad all over again.
Not all bad.
Not all bad. Good looking young men.
Oh, yeah.
Those of you who know George, he's always put together very well and neat, and I had the privilege of working with him for 3 summers at Minnesota Malting when I was in college, and one of our jobs was to tar some of the highest roofs on the plant. And I'd come home head to foot covered with tar, and George looked like he walked out of church. I can still see him with the little squeegee going back and forth, and he managed to stay neat as a pin all day. I wasn't quite so lucky.
Yeah. A lot of good memories.
Back to the military, you were an MP for a while.
Yeah.
Guarding ships or a little of everything? Or
Or everything.
did you ever have any run-ins with any Russians up there? Or
I had one big Russian there once.
was there a difference of opinion or what?
Well, we weren't supposed to let them on the pier if they were drunk, see. So this big galoot, he came staggering, and I tried to stop him. And I had to pull my pistol out, but then he stopped. But then there was a guardhouse right there, so we went and got the guards, and they took care of them. That was part of it.
We just wanted to thank Steve Dablow and Mike Gesme for putting together this production for us, and I want to thank Brian for agreeing to come and help. He's known George for quite a few years here, and I understand you guys have been card partners for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he should be remembered as the best cribbage player I've ever played with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And also I want to thank people from my family for providing pictures. I understand there's going to be a book put together with pictures of each of our families that we can all have a copy of, and especially want to thank you and Clarice for sharing some of your thoughts with us.
Oh, you're welcome. How did I do, Ma?
Okay.
Okay. How they drag you into it?
Well, this is fun.